So thank you for joining. Have you ever wondered what inflammation is? What is inflammation? I know you've wondered because you're here listening to this, but because you're alive today and there's so much talk about inflammation. So why? Why is there so much talk? And why does it seem so difficult to understand? At least it was for me for the longest time, and I've been studying this. So I want to break it down and make it really simple for you. Okay? Does that sound good? You ready for this? Because I promise it's not difficult to understand. And it's not difficult to understand why there's so much talk about it either. Okay? It's really common sense when we break it down and think about it logistically. Okay, so we're going to dive in. For those of you who don't know me, I am Danielle Brisk of Be Well with Danielle, and I'm so glad to be here with you. I am your holistic health coach and energy healer who helps relieve people of chronic stress and anxiety so that they can live pain-free and get rid of chronic disease like inflammation. Chronic diseases caused by inflammation and stress. Okay, so in case you are not aware, stress is in fact a key, like number one out of like 5 to 10 main triggers of disease today in our, I guess, industrialized world, you could call it. Okay, so does that make sense? Does that make sense? Why is that? And it all comes back to inflammation, and we're going to get to that. So let's dive in. What is inflammation? Then let's bring it back to how that relates to stress. You've heard of the immune system, right? Okay. Do you know what the immune system is? Anyone? Yes, you have an idea. You have little pieces, bits and pieces of it. It has to do with the gut. It has to do with white blood cells. So how does that all work together? Basically, let's keep it really simple for the purpose of this, this talk right now. It's our defense system, right? The immune system, our defense system, same thing, right? Just different ways of explaining it, okay? You could call it, so for a home, you could think of it in terms of like, let's think of an analogy to make this really easy. It could be like the army, or I was also thinking it could be like a home, right? You want to defend your home, right? You want to protect it. A protection system, that's it, really simple. So what is the protection system possibly of a home? Okay. Now, of a military, of a country, it's really complex. Of a home, it's also a little complex, but you can break it down into components. You can understand each component and how it plays into the bigger picture, right? So if someone has, extended a little extra security on their home, they might have cameras, right? They might have a couple cameras out. And then so that's essentially, those lookout guards, okay? You send lookouts, out to check, make sure everything's okay around the border. And then if there's something, then they send a signal back, okay? So someone's receiving that signal, seeing that video on the other end of the camera, and receiving it and making a decision about what they see, right? So there's many different parts of us, but there's also the house itself. Have you ever considered the house itself is also part of that defense system, of the protection system of the house, right? Because in fact, you can't just have the furniture, you can't just, have the bed and call it a house. It wouldn't be a house, right? So our outside part of us, the skin, right? The outside part of us, which is also fascia right underneath the skin. There's a lot of layers of the skin. And then there's fascia actually that extends and surrounds the whole body. So it's getting a little bit deeper. But essentially, the outside of us is also part of our defense system, right? A big part. That's what holds us all together. Okay, so starting from the outside in, our skin, the barrier of our skin is our defense system on the outside, and is our body itself. It is the container for our body, or surrounding our body, right? The structure inside. And then what else is actually exposed to the outside? Well, all of our orifices, right? The orifices get exposed to the outside. And in fact, there's orifices, there's holes in our skin. Our skin is porous, right? Our skin is porous. So it goes both ways. Things come out of our skin, we sweat, right? We know that. And things also go into our skin, right? So it's not an impermeable barrier, right? So that's something to consider when we're thinking about our immune system, our defense responses, and inflammation, right? That things actually come in through our skin also. I'm talking real basics here. So some of you may know this, some of you may not. So, if you know this, great, wonderful. But just in case you haven't thought of that before, that's something to consider, okay? That it's not plastic. Things can actually get in through our skin, into our body, and they do get in very quickly. Okay, but on a deeper level, on our mouth, right? I'm talking, just walking you through here, so walking through the steps. When we eat something, our mouth is exposed to the outside. The things that we put in our mouth, become exposed outside. And then our whole digestive system starts in our mouth, right? When we eat something, and it goes down right into our belly, into our stomach, right? Into our intestines. So all of that, the whole digestive system is exposed to the outside through the food that we eat, through the air we breathe even. Of course, it goes in through our lungs, but it's still the air goes in as well through the what we're drinking, right? So that's all exposed to the outside. So that's all part of the lining of our defense system, right? If you think about it like that, it becomes really obvious that our whole gut, our whole digestive system, now usually the gut is considered the bottom part, the large intestine, but our whole entire digestive system is actually plays a part in, a major role in our immune system. Okay, so why am I talking about immune system when we're talking about inflammation? Okay, just giving you a sense here of what makes up our immune system. So it starts on our outside, works our way in. When you work our way in, it goes into our digestive system, right? It includes our digestive system to a very large extent. There'll be another video talking about that in greater detail. And then of course there's the airway through our lungs, in through our nose and through our lungs, and even our eyes and ears have internal, our orifices, our holes, right? Okay, so now that there's that understanding, let's see. What is inflammation? What is inflammation? Any ideas? Any ideas? Throw your comments in here. What do you think it is? Okay. Now, understanding that we have an immune system, that we have this defense system, the point of going through that defense system with you right now was to point out and remind you that we are, as you know, we are not immune. We are not, it's likely that things are going to get in to affect us, to harm us in one fashion or another, or try to harm us in one fashion or another, often, right? Often. Through our skin, through food, and so, but our body is built in such a way, is created in such a way that to deal with things that come in that could potentially harm us, right? So that's a common day occurrence, common. All the time, our body's working to defend us, right? Same as with a house, it might not be the big invaders, maybe it's the small invaders, maybe it's the insects, right? So you also have to protect your house from insects and the little bugs that can also harm your house potentially. What about mold? So there's a whole host of things that could harm your house that aren't like the robbers coming in to steal, So there's all different layers of potential harm and things that we need to defend ourselves against, whether you're thinking about a country, a home, or our bodies. Okay, so that makes sense? Good. So, given that, again, what is inflammation? What is inflammation and why does it matter? Okay, so we understand a little bit more about our immune system right now, okay, and how to think about that. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is essentially really simple, is the natural response of the body to deal with some harm, some potential harm, whether it's an invader, whatever it may be, something that they see as something internally that we see as foreign to ourselves. something, anything that the body sees internally that it may harm it, then it creates a defense response against, and that essentially creates inflammation. It creates an immune response, a defense response, which is like a barrier. So it inflames, it exaggerates, it brings blood, brings defenses, brings supplies to an area of the body that needs extra help, right? Same thing that happens in a country, a part of the world that might need extra support, right? If there's harm there, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's war, whatever it may be, whatever kind of harm, or again, thinking about a house. If there's harm to a house, then you bring extra supplies to that house. You start hammering away, or cutting away and fixing that part of the house, that part of the structure, that part of the country, or where whatever needs help. So same thing that happens internally. More supplies, whether it's the white blood cells, the phagocytes. There's all different cells, all different material, enzymes, and lots of different processes that happen inside our body to heal and to protect ourselves when we think that there's potential harm. Okay, so it's a natural process. So that's number one. That's what I want you to understand. Inflammation itself is a natural process. You bang your knee, you're gonna get swollen. Or you bang some part of your body, right? You hit it, ouch, and then all of a sudden it gets swollen. If it's a really bad bang, right? It gets swollen because it's inflamed. So you think, okay, that's a natural problem, but then you put ice on it because ice cools down the inflammation. You want that inflammation to be there because you want their body to protect itself, but you don't want it to get too bad because you also want to cool it down. And you realize that the inflammation has to be controlled, because if it gets too inflamed, right? You send too many supplies, you're overloaded. And you're like, hold on, I just have to fix this little cut here. I don't need all the supplies. Just send me a little bit. So why is that? Does that make sense? So this is a natural process that happens in the body. Okay? But why is there so much talk about it? Is everyone getting hurt? Do you see everyone getting hurt? Yes. That's the point. It's not as obvious as someone banging their head, their elbow, their knee, whatever it may be, getting hurt on the sports, doing sports, doing whatever you may be where you get a physical injury on the outside, where you see it's inflamed and might need ice or what have you. But we are being inflamed, and we are being attacked on the inside. Our bodies are thinking, are responding to us like we're being attacked from the inside. So there's from all kinds of things that are coming at us, both from so there are a whole host of things. It could be an infection, it could be a whether it's a virus, a bacteria, whatever it is, a fungus, but it's also from foreign objects, from our food, in our water, in the air we breathe, from things we put on our bodies, a whole host of things, right? And many of the things that we're putting in our bodies now, and also putting on our bodies, give a signal to our body like it's a foreign invader, right? And stress also, too much stress also creates a reaction that the body wants to heal itself again, wants to protect itself from. So it creates a response in the body like, I need to protect myself. I need to heal this. Is that making sense? Say yes if you're with me. Say, I got it. Say, this makes sense. Say, aha. Are you having an aha moment? Or is this something you already knew about? I already knew it. Let me know in the comments as well. But for many people, this is not common knowledge, unfortunately, because it's usually explained like, oh, you just have inflammation, like some ambiguous term, some ambiguous, you know, thing that's out there that, oh, we don't know why it happens. But it happens because our body thinks that it reacts to some insult, some injury. Okay. So what is the injury? That would be the common sense question. For me, it is. So what injured it? So why is the body acting like there's an injury? There's a whole host of reasons why, right? It could be one particular event. It could be over time. But nowadays there's a whole bunch of reasons why. And an autoimmune condition, there's a whole bunch of them. I'm dealing with myself with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, which is very clearly an autoimmune condition. Also diabetes, so many conditions. And in fact, many people are dealing with autoimmune conditions that they don't even realize they have. So what does that mean? It's simply the situation where our body is protecting itself against itself, because it thinks its signals are crossed. It thinks that actually the body itself is now the enemy, right? Is the invader. How does that happen? How is that possible? So the body's creating inflammation, a protection response against itself. Instead of protecting itself against a foreign invader, it's protecting itself against itself. Right? So something has broken down. Something really essential has broken down in that defense system when that happens. And again, the defense system starts in the skin, but very, very essentially, it's important to realize it's a key component of like 70% of the defense system is in our, after the skin, right? After the initial exterior of the skin I'm talking about, is in our digestive system. What we take in things from the outside world through our digestive system. What we take in with our food and that whole intestinal lining, if that lining is actually, unfortunately, it's, this is how it's made, is just about a cell thick, one cell. So if the integrity of that lining is broken, if that lining, it has holes in it, has cracks in it, then things, our food, particles from our food and particles that we ingest get into our body and can attack us from the inside. Instead of, if things that were not supposed to, be in our body are supposed to be excreted, and instead they get into our body, into our bloodstream, and affect the cells and affect our whole body and wreak havoc. And then our body starts attacking itself. Okay. So that's number one to understand. There are causes, there are reasons for inflammation. And thus, the important part of this whole thing that I'm going, talking on and on about, is that when you find the causes, you can find the solutions, right? When you understand the cause, then you can better understand and find the solutions, right? Right? So I hope this makes sense to you. Please let me know if you have any further questions, and we'll dive deeper in other continuous videos. But I wanted to just share this information that, and you still may have questions after this. Maybe this wasn't as simple as I hoped it was. So, but unfortunately, many times it's talked about as such a complex subject. It doesn't have to be. It's our body's, inflammation, or the body's natural response to defending itself, period. When there's excess inflammation or an autoimmune condition that creates inflammation, it's simply the body's attacking itself, because the defense system has broken down and it's letting foreign invaders into our body, right? So how do we secure that defense system? How do we secure that internal lining? That's number one. That has to be number one plan of attack, right? Plan of, to solve this. But there are solutions. Thank God there are solutions. Thank God, right? So if you want to learn more, and thank you so much for watching, for joining me today. again for joining me today. And if you want to find solutions for yourself to reduce your inflammation, please let me know. Please let me know, because there are solutions. And you don't have to live with chronic inflammation for the rest of your life. Anywhere that says there is no cure, question it. Question it. We have to question what we hear. Just like this, question it. Let me know what questions you have. I'd love to know. All right. Well, we are, again, in case you didn't hear, this is Danielle Brisk, and I'm here to help you transform your pain to power and bring you, back to the basics and way beyond in terms of empowering you with your health, your peace of mind, and overall stress relief, so you can live a happier, healthier, and wealthier life. All right. Very good. See you next time. Thank you for joining.